My business recently has been sent a payroll tax bill, and I'm pissed off. Why am I getting a tax upon a tax? What is the purpose of payroll tax? And is there any way I can get out of it or reduce it?
Payroll tax has been around for a long time. They're state-based taxes. Each state in Australia has their own rate. The averages are between 5 and 6%. In WA, it's 5.5%. Once your wages, superannuation thresholds go above $1 million, it's a staggered rate. It's not a flat 5.5% from $1 million. There is a formula there. But unfortunately, it's a real bugbear for me. I hate payroll tax. But it's a tax on employment. The states all rely on that as a fairly major revenue source. I understand it came in World War II. It's been around. It was actually incentive fuel to go to war, funnily enough, and that was a long time ago. But they've since relied on it, like other state-based taxes, like stamp duties. And unfortunately, we are hoping that there's going to be an increase in the threshold across the states soon. We promise that.
You said there it includes superannuation.
100%, yeah. So if you employ someone for $100,000 a year, payroll tax goes on, $111,500.
Yeah.
So across your whole payroll. So, and this is part of my
really
frustration.
Only 10 staff.
Yeah, if you've got an average of people on packages of super inclusive, circa 100K, you've doesn't take long to hit the payroll tax threshold. Now, the formula does ease in, but it's still a tax on unemployment.
So is it on the full million, or it's just the million upwards?
The formula works on the million upwards.
Okay.
So,
where the 5.5 kicks in. Okay, that's right. And is there any way to get out of payroll tax?
Yeah, great question. There are some fairly technical solutions. I'll touch on just some basics. The most common reason that people, other than the thresholds and going over them, multiple entities can be grouped. There are three main tests. If there's common directorship, common ownership, or common use of employees. There are situations where we have seen businesses that in separate industries, separate locations, no common sharing of staff, but have had some common directorship or common ownership and have applied for an exemption for ungrouping.
Yep.
That's a common one. But other solutions just at a simple level for smaller business is if you have the opportunity to contract with people as a genuine independent contractor. So I'm not talking about personal services income where you've got staff and they come in till a Friday and they come back on Monday as a contractor. We're not talking about the two aggressive ways of turning all your staff into contractors, but you've got genuine things you can outsource. It might be in your business, it might be production, it might be videoing, etc. So using outsourced providers rather than employees is probably the most common, just purely to try and keep your own employees under a certain threshold.
Yeah. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, as a business owner, it seems a little bit counterintuitive to have a payroll tax that almost tries to put a bit of a ceiling almost. It's almost a disincentive to employing more local Australians, right? Because you just mentioned there, well, you'd go down a contracting route. Well, that obviously gives subcontractors have less rights and protections than employees do. And, they don't get annual leave and sick pay and any of those kind of statutory things that you have to give an employee. But as a business owner, it seems a little counterintuitive because it sort of makes you then look at either subcontracting or offshoring and sending Australian dollars over to Philippines or wherever it might be, especially in my industry, which is obviously digital services based. So what I mean, you mentioned it was the war. What's the logic back?
Look, I think it's just a case of our state governments have just been that reliant on it for that long. They're just not letting go of it. Stamp duty on properties, you could have the same argument. The property prices have gone through the roof. And the revenue they're making from stamp duty is also through the roof.
Ridiculous.
And there's some pressure there for obvious reasons to increase some thresholds. Look, the outsourcing piece is interesting because ultimately, you'd like to employ people locally, but if you can source labour offshore through non-employment arrangements, why wouldn't you do that? That's don't get me started on payroll tax. we paid as well, by the way. So